In a quiet little town in Colorado, nestled where the mountains stand like ancient sentinels and the clouds drift lazily across the sky like puffs of cotton, there was a place called Willow Creek. It wasn't a town you'd find on any major map, nor was it famous for any grand monuments or historical events. But for the families who called it home, Willow Creek held a kind of magic that was more precious than any landmark. It was a place where life moved at the pace of the seasons, slow and deliberate, and where the simplest moments felt like the most important ones. On the very edge of this town, where the land sloped gently down to meet the whispering waters of the creek, lived the Hartleys. From the outside, their house was just like any other, a cozy wooden home with a welcoming porch and flowers spilling out of window boxes. But inside, and indeed all around them, was a family unlike any other. Not because of anything strange or extraordinary in the traditional sense, but because of the uncommon, profound way they loved each other. It was a love woven into the very fabric of their daily lives, as natural and constant as the creek that flowed past their home. There was Mom, whose name was Eleanor, but everyone just called her Mom. She had a habit of humming soft, gentle melodies that seemed to float through the house like warm sunlight, finding their way into every corner and lifting everyone's spirits. Her tunes were wordless stories, carrying feelings of comfort and joy. Then there was Dad, Robert, but always just Dad to his family. He was a man with kind eyes and strong hands, famous in their small world for making the absolute best hot chocolate in the entire county. His secret? Extra marshmallows, always, and a dash of something that tasted a lot like pure happiness. And then there were the children. Lily, a curious and bright 10-year-old, was rarely seen without her worn leather notebook and a pen tucked behind her ear. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions and ideas, and her notebook was filled to the brim with what she called her collections of dreams. She sketched the shapes of clouds, wrote down snippets of conversations she overheard, and drafted plans for inventions that would make the world a better place. And finally, there was little Max, the youngest. At 5 years old, the world was still a canvas of pure wonder for him. He was a boy who believed, with all his heart, that every starry night sky was drawn by an invisible artist, just for him to see. Life in the Hartley household was a rhythm of simple, beautiful moments. Mornings began with the smell of Dad's coffee and Mom's humming, and days were filled with work, school, and play. But the most cherished time, the anchor of their day, was the evening. Every evening, without fail, as the hustle and bustle of the day's activities faded into a gentle quiet, the Hartleys would gather on their wide wooden porch. It was a sacred ritual. They would watch as the setting sun painted the towering mountains in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. The air would grow cooler, carrying the fresh scent of pine and damp earth from the woods nearby. And Willow Creek, their constant companion, would shimmer and glisten in the fading light, its gentle current flowing steadily past their home. "Time for our nightly wonder," Dad would announce, his voice warm and full of affection. This was the signal. The family would settle in, huddling close together on the old porch swing or wrapped in soft, oversized blankets on the wooden steps. This wasn't a time for big discussions or solving problems. It was a time for simply being together, for sharing the quiet space between the end of one day and the beginning of another. Mom would begin to hum her evening melody. It was a different tune each night, but it always carried the same sense of peace. The sound was so pure and gentle, It seemed to blend perfectly with the natural music of the evening, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the gentle, rhythmic rush of the creek. It was a harmony of human love and nature's serenity. While Mom hummed, Lily would open her notebook to a fresh page. Under the heading Tiny Miracles, she would carefully document the small, beautiful things she observed. Tonight her list included the graceful arc of a single maple leaf as it spiraled down to the ground, the distant haunting hoot of an owl, calling from the deep woods, and the first flicker of a firefly, its tiny light blinking on and off, like a miniature star that had lost its way. These weren't grand events, but to Lily, they were proof that magic was real and it was everywhere if you only took the time to look. Little Max, nestled comfortably against his father's chest, would close his eyes and listen. He listened to his mother's humming, to the crickets beginning their nightly chorus, and most of all, to the steady, reassuring thump-thump of his father's heartbeat. That sound, so strong and constant, was his ultimate lullaby. It was the rhythm that told him he was safe, he was loved, and all was right with the world. Tonight, as they sat on their porch, something particularly magical happened. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but a quiet, profound shift in the atmosphere. A soft, cool breeze drifted up from the creek, carrying with it the earthy, clean scent of the pines and the sweet fragrance of the wild roses growing along the bank. The creek itself seemed to respond to Mom's melody, its gentle gurgling taking on a deeper, more resonant hum sound, as if it were humming right back to her. And then, as the last sliver of the sun disappeared behind the mountain peaks, the first star of the evening appeared in the deep indigo sky. It wasn't just any star. It seemed to pop into existence with a special brilliance, shining with a clear, steady light that felt brighter and closer than any star they had ever seen before. It hung there, directly above their home, a single diamond on a vast velvet cloth. Lily, who had been watching the sky intently, gasped softly. She lowered her pen and whispered, her voice filled with awe, "Look, that's our star." The Hartley star, and in that moment, it felt undeniably true. For a brief, suspended second, everything felt perfectly, cosmically connected. The ancient, unmovable mountains, the ever-flowing creek, the vast, star-dusted sky, and the simple, uncommon love of a family sitting together in the quiet of the night. It was a feeling of belonging not just to each other, but to the entire universe. They were a tiny, glowing part of a much larger, beautiful whole. The love they shared wasn't just contained within their family. It radiated outwards, touching the world around them and being touched by it in return. Little Max let out a big yawn, his small body finally succumbing to the gentle pull of sleep. His eyes grew heavy, the image of the Hartley star twinkling as his vision softened. Seeing him drift off, Mom's humming softened too, becoming even more gentle, more like a breath in a song. The creek, ever faithful, continued its soft, liquid lullaby, a timeless song that had been sung long before the Hartleys were there and would continue long after. And so, slowly, gently, peacefully, one by one, each member of the Hartley family drifted into sleep right there on their porch, lulled by the sounds of the night and the warmth of their love. Dad's head rested against the back of the swing, Max asleep on his chest. Lily's notebook lay open in her lap, her dreams now merging with the ones she had been writing about. And Mom, her humming now a silent, contented smile, leaned her head on Dad's shoulder. All through the night, Willow Creek flowed onward. It carried their dreams on its current, mingling them with the whispers of the willows and the secrets of the stones on its bed. It stood guard over the sleeping family, keeping them safe, wrapped in a blanket of peace, until the first golden rays of the morning sun rose over the mountains to wake them once again. Thanks so much for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed this moment of peace, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Until next time.